everyone, welcome to Colleagues Getting Coffee. We're not in a van, we're in the office, Midnight HQ, yay!
Can I just jump in? It's a great office. There's a really cool quote on the wall, and I'm just going to say, it says, "They call us dreamers, but we're the ones who don't sleep." What a quote.
True fact, I actually never sleep. I literally didn't sleep last night. So I had to go and put all the makeup on.
Why didn't you sleep last night?
I was just tired. Well, I just get over stressed about things. You know, just life. It's all good.
Just standard startup stuff.
I forgot my why. Maybe we could talk about it. Okay, spoiler alert. This is Guy Richardson, everyone. From Lakewood. Projects Lakewood. Just Lakewood.
We go at Lakewood today.
Go with Lakewood. And tell us a little bit about yourself.
Crikey, where do I start? A bit about myself. So, I'm a businessman. I'm a loving father to two wonderful children, George and India, and my beautiful wife, Rachel. I used to have a podcast, but now don't, called The Business of Life, but there is still a few episodes out there if you want to have a listen. Bit of a plug there.
I'll put a little thing along the
I
bottom.
can't help myself. I'm just a typical businessman, always trying to look for plugs.
Just plug.
But yeah, what else do you want to know?
Well, okay, let's cut to the beeping. Right. So, tell us about the why in business. That's what we're going to talk about today. The why.
The why. I think taking a step back, take the business side out of it. The why, because I think
okay.
no one starts a business without a why before the business. If that
Okay,
makes sense.
yeah.
So, I think from a young age, I've been really aware of my sort of mortality,
Okay.
so to speak. We're all born and we all die, and we only get like a real finite amount of time in between. So I've always been like, well, if we're only here for a select period, what do I want to achieve in that time, you know? And for me, it's always been about creating something which lasts past when I die, essentially. So, you know, people say legacy, I don't know if that's the correct word, but essentially I want to create a life that's remembered, you know, whether that's from my family, my children, people I've impacted through business, through helping them out, and sort of like set a standard, sort of set a standard for the people around me, particularly my children.
Yeah.
But I've always had that from a young age, and then when I had children, it was like that, but on steroids.
Can I ask why? Why you kind of were so interested in mortality? Like what? Why?
I mean, there are a few things, but from a young age, without going too deep, from a young age, there's a few things which happened, which I think started that sort of fire inside of me, if that makes sense. And from then on, I just saw every day as like a gift.
Okay.
Like, just lucky to be here for, you know, I'm not going to go into detail, but just felt really lucky to be here and like, why have... You get one chance at life. Why live an average life when you can live an extraordinary one?
Well, it's funny because you say this because it totally resonates with me. And one thing I think about is not only like what a short life we have, like let's make as much impact as quickly as we can and to as many people as we can. But for me, it's also like you're on your own horse. Like your gorgeous wife, you two are still on your own horses. You might be travelling together, but you're still on your own journey. And I think it's really important in business and in life to recognise that you've got to have your back and make your legacy or put into the world what it is that really speaks to you.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people kind of get mixed up in partnerships and things like this, and it gets a bit wishy-washy, but make your impact for you, whether that's business or life or relationships with anyone you come across.
I completely agree, because ultimately, you're responsible for yourself.
100%, yeah.
And that's one thing that I've always lived by. Like, don't blame anyone. You've got so many opportunities in life. You know, we live in a land of loads of opportunities. We could have been born in Africa, like in a third world part of the country, and had no opportunity. So don't waste it.
Yeah.
You know, you only get a short amount of time here, so try and live it the best you can for the people that almost don't get them opportunities.
Oh, and it's privilege, isn't it? It's just privilege all day long. And it's recognising that, because so many people just think, oh, I'll just do what I want and I'll be kind of lazy. And then 60 years have gone by and they're dropping dead and that's it, isn't it? And then what did you do? Like, and I always find those people really fascinating, the passengers, I call them, you know, on this journey. Like, I feel like I'm very much a driver. You know,
That's
arguably,
really cool, actually, the passenger.
yeah,
Never
like,
thought of it like that.
and I'm always driving, and obviously when I'm with someone like Tim, and Tim's a driver too, we have to sort of share the driving.
Yeah.
But I can't, and I've been in relationships with, like, business people or like personally, and I felt like I'm just driving them, and I'm like, this is your car, like, go and get, like, come on, do your own thing, like. So you've got to live it. You've got to live it, and you've got to do it, and you've got to make those great moments. You've got to challenge and see and grow.
For sure, and I always think these people that you call passengers, for some people that's great, but I almost feel like they're missing something. I don't mean that like derogatory, but I feel like I wish you could have my perspective or some of these other people's perspective, because I feel like your mind just gets opened up, if that makes sense, and you become aware of so much more. I think when people, you know, and like you said, like passengers, it's so, they have their daily tasks, their daily routines, and they don't really, I don't know, I don't want to sound bad on people that are passengers, because, you know, that's great for them, that's their life.
Right, so they're comfortable with comfortable.
Yeah.
We're the sort of people that want to be uncomfortable. We don't like being uncomfortable, but we know on the other side of that discomfort is something better, and growth and more awareness and more fulfillment.
Yeah.
You're answering the why. Like,
Yeah.
you're reaching your why and the satisfaction that comes with that. Like, sometimes when I've had a really hard time in life, business, whatever, I've always thought, well, ignorance is bliss. Because if I didn't know that any of this stuff existed, or if I didn't have the knowledge, then life would be easy. So sometimes it's hard, and you make it harder for yourself the more you try and struggle and put yourself out there. But I don't have an alternative. I can't do
This is
anything
it.
different.
So when I started the business, I feel exactly the same way, because when I started the business, I was like, I need to make this so I've got no other option than to succeed. And Tony Robbins says, if you want to take the island, burn the boats. So I was like working on the tools, typical person, you know, get a trade, earning good money, or, you know, what most people would perceive as, you know, good money, had potentially a good career ahead of me just doing that. And I could have had you know, what most people would say, that's a, you know, a good life. But it wasn't that I wanted more money, so to speak. Yeah, it's great to have more money, but I just felt like this cannot be it. You know, if I die in 70 years' time, I'm going to look back and go, you done what you know you could do.
Yeah.
Why not try and do what you don't know that you can do, and see how far that pushes you? Like Elon Musk says, I'm fascinated by, he's like, reach for the moon, you know, and you might hit the stars, you might hit this, but you'll find your limit somewhere.
Yeah.
And I think, for me, that's what life's about. It's the human brain wants to progress, doesn't it? That's progress equals happiness to me.
Yeah.
But that's sort of my take on it anyway.
So, okay, so for someone watching and they're like, I resonate with this, like, how do you become more of that person? You know, I'm kind of saying here, I suppose, as well, like, for me as a woman, it's some things that hold us back are roles. So, like, what the expectation is of what you do. And so sometimes you think, oh, I really want to do that and be that, but, oh, I'm not supposed to, or someone said I wasn't that good, or whatever. Is that a barrier, or is it just a mindset thing?
I think it is a barrier, but it's a barrier that can be moved. But I think what you're talking about is identity. You've got this identity that you're trying to live up to, or other people's identities, you know, and that does cause a bit of a barrier. But like I said, it's one that can get over. But for me, how I can only talk from my own personal experience, but for me, for how I can be more of what I want to become, it's not by doing more. It's by eliminating things which I know I don't want to do. And Matthew McConaughey says it great in his book Green Lights. If you eliminate what you don't like, you'll be left with what you want to do, and then you can just do more of it. But I also think, for me, it's been reflecting and making sure that I take time out of my week to really sit and reflect on all my whys, you know, and daily, you know, I've got a journal every night that I'll write in, you know, what are my emotions, what are my feelings, what stressed me out today, what did I find good? Because when you start to see it on paper, you can quickly realise actually that certain things you think you're doing, which are moving you towards your what you set out to in the first place, actually aren't. I just think it helps you to articulate thoughts. So I would say deep quality reflection time would be my go-to.
So for that reflection piece, what are the parameters of that? Do you have specific questions that you answer, or do you just openly think and just see what comes into your mind to reflect on?
It's different all the time. So for me, I always meditate. So in the morning I always do 5 minutes of meditation, and that time I'm prepping myself for the day, to sort of like calm my mind. So whatever throws at me, I'm prepared for it. And then in the evenings, I suppose I haven't really got like a particular set of questions, but I always think, how has the day served me, so to speak? Like how is it moved me towards my goal? Am I still on the right track? And sometimes it might be 5 minutes. Sometimes I could be sat there for like 20 minutes and you get stuck on something. And sometimes it can even be a little bit frustrating, but it's just about knowing yourself. I think so many people take on so many more things and, be looking at Instagram for inspiration, or looking at YouTube for inspiration, so to speak. But a lot of the time you've got to look inside, and the inspiration comes from there, because you can't live someone else's life. I think.
I massively believe in the statement, everything you have, you need. Everything you need, you have, which round. But like, I do believe that, because I think you're totally right as well. Like, we live in such a digitally saturated world as well. It's so incredibly easy to look at other people. So one of the things I do in business is, I don't look at competitors. And when I had my newbie start, they looked at all our competitors and it freaked me out. Like, they reported back and we went through it all, and I literally had imposter syndrome for 3 weeks. I was a mess. And I thought, why? Literally just look into yourself, look at your crazy witch cavern, and think about you and your brand and how you do things. And it's the same in life. It's, tune in, listen to that voice. Like you said, the meditation, the reflection is all part of that journey, and it's so important. But a lot of people can't hear their voice, or they're not used to doing it. So I'm guessing you're saying that meditation is a way to start that process.
Yeah, I think a lot of people know it's there. Everyone gets feelings. The gut, what is called the gut feeling. That your gut's there. It's connected to your brain, so it's so intrinsically linked. You've just got to give yourself the time to listen to it. But I think a lot of people, there's self-developing. When you start listening to yourself, you go through a lot of pain, because you're uncovering old habits, you're uncovering old feelings, old emotions, old thoughts, and you've got to get through that before you get to the good stuff. And I think that scares people, because they've got to sit down and reflect. And to a lot of people, if they've never done it before, they think this is all hippie stuff, this is all woo-woo, I don't want to be doing it. So they don't really fully commit. And then as soon as they start feeling negative thoughts coming up, they instantly go, this isn't working. But actually it's that process of sitting back, listening to those thoughts, understanding them and accepting them. And even if some of them thoughts are you've done something wrong in the past, be compassionate with yourself and go, that was me back then. I'm a different person now, I'm changing for the better.
Yeah.
And I think that initial pain of going through those emotions, I think puts people off a little bit.
And I definitely believe that you should even look back 6 months and be embarrassed about things you said and things you did. Because if you're not embarrassed about something you did, you haven't learned anything. You haven't grown. Like, even there's an email I sent last week that I'm like, oh, why did I send that? I'm such an idiot. Like, why did I say it like that? Like, it's all about just looking in the mirror. And sometimes the mirror is bloody ugly. But you know what?
Depending on what day it is.
Yeah.
Because some days you've got you have days where you're really spirited and you feel confident, and you're like, I'm killing it, I'm absolutely killing it, nothing can stand in my way. And then the next day, because we're like oceans, we go up and down in waves, you're not high spirited. And on those days you look at yourself and you're like, oh man, I don't feel good today. And that's okay,
Yeah, absolutely. I love this. So what haven't I asked you about why that someone literally can do right now?
Crikey, actionable tips. The only person you're competing against is yourself. And just have that in plain sight. And that's, don't get me wrong, I don't always do that, because it's hard not to. If you're trying to get somewhere in life and improve as a person, improve as a business, improve the people around you. You can't help but look elsewhere, but try and always remember that you're competing against yourself. Apple didn't become Apple by competing with Microsoft. Apple became Apple because they wanted to make the best damn product possible. They didn't care what Microsoft were doing. They become Apple by being Apple. And I think a lot of people try and beat other people. But it's about yourself. You've got to be able to beat yourself, essentially, daily.
Be more you. How about that? For sure. I love it.
For sure.
Darling, this is a very existential and philosophical conversation today, and I like it.
Excellent. Sometimes I must admit I find it hard to articulate my thoughts.
Come across really well.
It's difficult, and it's tough to.
But I think these sorts of conversations in business are important because it's nice to find other people like you that you feel like, oh yeah, actually you get it, like you're on this. And sometimes I'm always vulnerable with people and say, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. Oh. And actually opening that door, they're like, oh my God, me too. I'm glad you said something. So hopefully someone today, thanks for joining us, has learnt something. Guy, how can they get in touch with you if you blew their mind?
Crikey, I'm not sure I blew their mind, but if anyone wants to get in touch with me, I'm pretty active on LinkedIn, Instagram. Follow the business page on LinkedIn, Lakewood. Then yeah, that's it really.
I love that. Well, thanks for joining me.
Cheers, Annalise.
Thanks.